Hi, everyone. My name is Tajil. I'm the founder and CEO of ThinkImpact. We are a marketing agency based out of Rochester Hills, Michigan. Today, I'm very fortunate to have Nick Mattar, founder and CEO of Digital Detroit. Thank you, Nick, for being on today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So a little bit of background about Nick. With over a decade of digital marketing experience, Nick has a deep understanding of marketing principles and business acumen to grow clients' online reputation and overall business. From SEO and analytics to social media and email marketing, Nick is a data-driven thinker that uses numbers to build a digital marketing strategy. In addition to his role at Digital Detroit, Nick also teaches digital marketing at Wayne State University at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. So thanks, Nick, again. And just to kind of set some background, Nick and I kind of know each other from brief interactions through his time at the Chamber of Detroit when he was the marketing director at the Detroit Chamber of Commerce. So just kind of setting the stage. Nick, if you don't mind, I know we know each other pretty well, but for those people that might be watching, can you please talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I first got into the world of digital marketing. I would go back to, honestly, probably when I was in high school. As an older millennial, or I guess a mid-aged millennial, the first real iteration of social media happened in the form of AOL Instant Messenger. Everybody seemed to have a profile. Everybody was always online after school, and your profile spoke volumes about who you were as a person socially. And I spent many hours. I wouldn't say I wasted many hours, but I spent many hours looking online, scourging the internet for ways to spruce up my profile and figure out how can I make my buddy profile stand out the most. And it was through there that I learned how to work with HTML. And over the course of the next couple of years, AIM kind of gave way to MySpace, which was kind of a little bit more of a contemporary version of social media. Anybody who is probably Gen Z is probably not too familiar with MySpace, but kind of the original way of getting your friend profile out there for us millennials. And you could spruce it up with a lot of different things. I remember having a music player with whatever the hot song was at the time. I had a survey about myself, and you could even put a blog on there. And so that was my introduction to blogging. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that was digital marketing from a personal branding perspective. And for a couple of years, I maintained my profile. And maybe not every day, but a couple times a week would go in, I'd make updates, could add photos, change the music. It was essentially my personal website. And those types of, I guess you could say, those behaviors just kind of, as you learn them at such a young age, kind of craft a more marketing mindsets when you get into the working world. In college, when I was in undergrad, is when Twitter really took off. Right after undergrad is when Instagram became a thing. And in my various roles over the years, I've gotten involved in both project managing websites, marketing via social media, email marketing, and just about everything that touches digital marketing today. So over the last, 3 years, you could say I've taken more of a project approach to digital marketing and looking for businesses to partner with and working with clients on various digital marketing aspects. I actually started Digital Detroit in 2018, really out of necessity, just because I had a client at the time where I needed to have a business for tax purposes. I went in, I started that, just kind of created it on a whim, didn't think much was going to come of it. And the power of referrals and word of mouth marketing really got me a couple more over the years, but it wasn't until probably this past year, in 2020, with the pandemic hitting and everything. It wasn't until then that I ever had more than one client at a time, and it became something where I thought, okay, I can actually do something with this. And it's still a side gig. It's still something that is, I can only take so many clients at once, just because I do work at Wayne State full time as well, both as a part-time faculty member, but also leading the marketing for the graduate school. So there is a lot of different hats that I wear right now, all of which touch digital marketing in some way.
Sounds good. Yeah, I guess that kind of blends into the questions that I had about Digital Detroit and how it kind of came to fruition. So what kind of, I know you kind of alluded to this, but maybe if you can expand, what kind of piqued your interest in entrepreneurship and kind of building a career in teaching entrepreneurship, and what kind of brought you to that moment, or what excites you most about entrepreneurship as a whole?
Well, I will say, as somebody who's had a lot of interactions with business leaders over the years, it was not until I didn't start my career knowing that I wanted to own my own business, and I always thought I would take the route of climb the corporate ladder and ascend to a certain level where I could oversee strategy. But at a certain point, I'm not really sure what it was, but there was I guess it was sometime after I actually launched Digital Detroit that I realized I do want to be my own boss eventually. But it's not something I'm in the position to really take the plunge and do full time right now. I have a young family at home. I got a lot of bills to pay. So right now it's purely supplemental. But from an entrepreneurship standpoint, you get that once you get a taste of it and what it's like working on the vendor side for other businesses. It can be really enjoyable from a perspective that you don't really see or get when you are working for a larger business, and that people come to you for thought leadership, for your authority, for they're hiring you to fill a role, to fill a void, or to fill some sort of expertise that they don't otherwise have. And to me, that was really fascinating because with a lot of my clients, those relationships have grown to be more than just what I was hired for at the start. It's more multifaceted now across other channels. I have one client who I do all the social media for right now, but that's become something over the last 18 months or so that's been going well. But what I enjoy just as much is the occasional call or our strategy session where I provide them with input on other parts of their marketing strategy. Because what I tell my students, you shouldn't think of marketing in a vacuum. Any sort of marketing should speak to the larger organization's goals, in that thinking about what is the end goal, where we want to be in 5 years, how are we going to remain solvent and be successful? Because marketing is really about not just communicating, or not segmenting audiences or targeting or positioning. It's not just about that. It's more about creating value for the business. And that's actually a definition that I took from a professor that I had in my MBA program at Wayne State when I was a student. And it was the same professor that kind of showed me that there was a potential way to teach digital marketing. And so after a couple of years in the MBA program and expressing kind of my experiences with the chamber and digital marketing and all the different areas, he approached me about helping to put together a curriculum for digital marketing. And so I did that for a course. And then after I graduated with my MBA, I immediately transitioned to teaching it the following semester. And so I've been doing that now after this year, it will be 3 full academic years. So I'll be going into year 4 if I'm teaching it in the fall. So it's really been interesting, kind of seeing over the last 4 or so years, seeing things develop, because you can move pretty quickly from just doing one thing, but if you open up your eyes and expand your horizons and you have that entrepreneurship mindset, you can really start getting your hand in a lot of different things from a business perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple of other questions too that I had were, I don't know if it's too early to ask this question, but in forming Digital Detroit, did you have any initial roadblocks, and how did you overcome them when kind of first trying to establish the business?
Yeah, well, so yes, there's always roadblocks. The big roadblock is always, or I guess the big question is, how do I get this to a point where it can be financially stable and I can make a living off of this alone? I'm a ways away from that. I working from home right now has its advantages because I can spend a little bit more time on Digital Detroit. At night when the kids go to bed, I can spend some time on it as well. Um, but at the same time, you know, eventually would like it to be a full my sole focus. But I imagine it'll be a couple of years before I can build up the client base, because I'm not in a growth stage at the moment. I'm confident that I can get to that point eventually, but it's not something that I have the time to spend every single day, both the execution of it and the growth strategy of it. That's something; those are two things that are difficult to do at once. And really starting with $0, it's not like I think I loaned myself enough money um, to actually start create the legal entity, to build a website, and I think enough money just to put in, because I needed a minimum amount in my bank account. That's all I had. So for probably the first 18 months, the business, there wasn't much to it. It was kind of like, as I would get a job here or there, I could, I'd be able to put in towards it. But it hasn't been until really after the pandemic started, and helping with some businesses in their transition to all virtual, or helping businesses reallocate their live events budget to more of the digital workplace. It wasn't until then that I really was able to make it something where there was consistent business. Um, it's something too where a lot of it is networking, and
Mhm.
with everything being virtual right now, that networking side suffers while
Yeah.
this other side flourishes. Um, because it's hard it's hard for me to say this, because I never really believed it until recently, but going to those actual events and building relationships is really critical.
Mhm.
um, because you never know when you're going to run into somebody whose business might have a need that you can fill, and being able to have that goal, going out and not being overly salesy, but just being relationship focused, and being able to speak intelligently about not only what you do, as a business person, but also listening to what this prospective client needs, or even if they don't say what they need, um, being able to come up with some ideas, what ways that you hear about a potential client's business, and think, oh, there's some things I could provide that could improve that. And then being able to approach it from a very personal level, not a corporate, oh, well, I have a deal for you. Um,
Mhm.
those are all really important. And, but it also takes time. It's not something that I just did. In my time with the chamber, I definitely learned how to network going to events, just as an employee, because you see all these people that have been professionals of the networking craft for dozens of years, and just sitting in the corner, working and just observing, was really invaluable. And so now, again, it's virtual, so it's a little bit more difficult, but I see the value and the power of the referral and word of mouth, because I've gotten a couple clients from my inbound marketing on my website. But again, I just don't have the time to better build my own content marketing strategy, I'm really focusing on what I can do most efficiently in that 10 to 20 minutes a day.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, just I had a quick question too, like between digital Detroit and being a marketing professor, are there certain trends within the digital marketing landscape that you think will become more, we'll see more of that? And what do you see those trends emerging as?
Well, so yeah, right now everybody's talking about these audio social networks. Clubhouse is starting to, I wouldn't say it's fizzling out, but it's starting to level out. As a result, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook are all coming for them. That's the easy answer. I don't think that is a long, and it'll definitely, there's definitely successes to be had in that space right now. But if you're looking at later in 2021 and things are going to be more time future proof, it's beginning to so search engine optimization is starting to evolve. Machine learning is starting to evolve, where it's going to be more and more difficult to rank your website and your blogging really well just based on keywords and keyword research alone. Google is finding ways to prioritize and reward that content which is actually really well written. And that does not always mean having the exact right number of keywords or having the correct headline structure or subhead structure or even the correct metadata, the like exactly, gaming the system. It's going to be about writing really quality content for your target audience. And it's something that is starting, I think, to come back around in importance. But as an English major in my undergrad, I understand the value of strong writing, and I've hired a lot of bloggers over the years to do my writing for me, because I probably can write one blog every 6 months these days. And I'm finding that so much of the blogging community has become essentially robotic. They're writing things that machines will be able to write pretty soon. It wasn't until really recently that I was able to find a couple of writers who write much more like people. And Google is going to finding ways to reward that type of content. Writing that is informal, that speaks to the reader, not at the reader, and has more of the ability to go back and forth between data and referencing like the numbers and the hard data with how it applies to the reader, to him or herself. And that's really a critical piece in blogging and to the future of search engine optimization, because I don't think the consumption of blogs is going to be going away anytime soon. Eventually people will, and even now, there's plenty of readers out there, audio readers, for that purpose. But I'm finding that, at least on my website, the most successful blog posts are those that are written in first person, that take an opinion point of view, that are not strictly fact-based. And I'm finding that those that do well are those that have personal anecdotes as part of them. I've got plenty of lists and things that are more about these about the newsy side or new data that's being released. Those usually fall flat now. It's all about the experience. And for blogging, that's going to be important, because you already see that with video. Video has become much more experiential. And audio now with Clubhouse and all those other ones are also becoming more about the experience. The blogging side is the one that's kind of lagging behind, at least those that kind of from the mass content, mass consumption point of view. And so it's going to be really important for that style to really take off here over the next couple of years. I know that's what I'm focusing on. And as I look to publish more content, it's not going to be as much about, the 10 ways to rank well on Google, but more about how we ranked well on Google.
Mhm.
Has to be more of a story, better at storytelling, and less about just regurgitating fact and big data.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think you touched on it. I think I saw Facebook and LinkedIn are doing beta testing with audio only, similar to what Clubhouse is doing. And so I guess my question there is, do you think that in a more B2B platform like LinkedIn or like a social platform like Facebook, that may diminish Clubhouse differentiation strategy within kind of the voice market? Because I mean, right now, I think if you strip away the fact that it kind of feels like an exclusive app because it's by invite only, I don't know much of a differentiation strategy. But what are your thoughts on, like business platforms kind of turning and evolving into these audio only type apps?
So I guess the big thing that Clubhouse had going for it was that they were first to market for this audio type of social network. And for me, I'm trying to look on my other screen here to see if I can pull up this data. But it's great because they rushed so fast to get to the market, this new idea. A lot of people were skeptical. Once they got in there, they jumped onto it. Clubhouse has now two things working against it, in that that they're not Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or one of the big social networks. So they don't have that built-in hundreds of millions of users that can leverage their account to log in within 30 seconds. The other thing that Clubhouse doesn't have going for it is that it's only available on iPhone. That has been a problem since the start. I'm shocked that it hasn't been made available elsewhere because iPhone is not the market leader. Contrary to what so many people think, there are more people with I guess you would call them an Android, but the more people have access to apps through the Google Play Store than the Apple Store, and it's just not. You're not going to be able to succeed as a company if you're only leveraging less than half of your target market. So those two things are working against Clubhouse. The question is, can the major social networks keep their version of Clubhouse from turning into a zoo? Because technically Clubhouse wasn't the first to do this style. There's a sports site called, I think it's Locker Room, that has been doing this for a while, in which people talk about all sorts of sports topics like you're in a locker room. But Clubhouse was the first to mainstream it from an entrepreneurial standpoint, from these major business topics, and now it's expanded to these other things. If Facebook's probably going to leverage groups. They're going to leverage pages to use this equivalent. Twitter's already got Spaces, which people can blast out to their followings at any time. LinkedIn is probably the most apples to apples comparison for Clubhouse because all the topics are going to be similar. And so the problem here is that Clubhouse has so many competitors coming at them from every angle. What they're going to need to do is make sure that there's a way for that people still consider Clubhouse kind of the original version of this. And they also need to kind of hope that the other versions kind of fall flat on their face. You look at the other social networks, and most of them struggle to introduce major new aspects, with the exception of Instagram. Instagram, anything they add, people are going to eat up. Stories, reels, all that. But LinkedIn, stories have fallen flat. Twitter, stories have fallen flat. Facebook, Facebook changes their UI all the time. So, I'm sure they're fine. They have a way of kind of getting it right. But people are very set in their ways in how they use these various social networks. And if the big guns can't find a way to change their user perceptions and their user behaviors, then Clubhouse will be in good shape. But I think it's going to be an interesting next couple of months to see how this all shakes out.
Sounds good. To that point, with the emergence of audio apps, obviously now with the pandemic, if you look at Zooms and Teams and Skype, that seems to be kind of, at least from the people that work from home, that's a pretty popular, or I should say widely used medium of conducting business. With the emergence of these audio apps, do you think that it's on the cusp of kind of changing, within a business aspect, kind of doing it audio only, or do you think voice will kind of make some more penetration within different markets and then kind of change the way people do business, compared to like now, like we're using Zoom or Teams?
I haven't even really thought about that. It's possible. Depends. It also depends on how much, where are we going to be as a workforce in another year? Are a lot of people still going to be working from home? And a lot of corporations are making work from home now the standard, making it, okay moving forward. But a lot of other businesses are just still working from home and waiting to really get the all clear before going back to work. That's going to be a big factor. The market factors will be a big part of how this all changes, because you're right. It's hard. The Zoom fatigue is real. Microsoft Teams fatigue is absolutely real, and there will need to be, there's something to be said for having an old-fashioned phone call to conduct a business meeting. The question is, what will these audio apps offer that a phone call does not? From a business perspective, it's more about functionality and less about kind of less about the name and more about the function. In that, Zoom right now, you can turn off your video. You can do a Zoom call from your phone, from the app. Same with Microsoft Teams. You can always just do a phone call. You can do a FaceTime. I don't know, obviously, if work from home continues this substantially deep into the future, there will be changes, absolutely. But for the time being, if in 2 years we're back to normal, I don't see there being too many other shifts. The big question is that a lot of companies offer Zoom or Teams, and you see meetings go back and forth between both, and that it's just it's either or is accepted. Eventually, I'm gonna guess that's gonna change, and those companies are gonna smarten up, and they're going to there's gonna need to be some mutually exclusive usage, because right now everybody's playing both sides. Mm-hmm. It's easy, it's not super expensive, and at some point, that dichotomy will have to shift. But so much of it depends on where, what is the work from home world like in 18 months.
Yeah. And I think another question that I wanted to kind of get your take on is, I think recently Facebook stopped tracking the analytics for businesses that conduct ad campaigns. And so obviously there are pros and cons to that. Being that we're both in the digital kind of space that probably have worked on campaigns or are working on campaigns, do you think that it may kind of disincentivize small businesses from, obviously having a digital presence is good, but more on the working side, if you can't track the analytics, what are your thoughts on that, and how it could affect businesses that are particularly within the digital marketing ecosystem that utilize these platforms to do ad campaigns for their clients?
Well, so analytics is critical to, I believe, every digital marketing company that's out there. You need to be able to show your performance. Long gone are the days of putting a billboard up on the freeway and letting it ride and that being your entire business. You have, the days of Mad Men style advertising that where, the value is based completely on just word of mouth and brand awareness as measured, or even in the mail. Those are very antiquated, and at this point, we need immediate gratification. We need to be able to see how our ads are doing today, right now, in the last 5 minutes. And the idea of any sort of analytics changing will just give rise to something else that will take its place. A good example to me is Instagram. Instagram did not have, before Instagram business profiles, before Instagram was bought by, maybe before they were bought by Facebook or right after, there were no Instagram analytics to be had other than how many likes you had. But software arose that could pull those numbers for you. And for the first year that when I was at the chamber that we had an Instagram account, we used a program called Iconosquare that pulled all of the data for us. Eventually, Instagram offered business profiles and analytics, which completely changed the game. Iconosquare has had to kind of went away for a while, has pivoted, and now is back. But kind of the moral of the story is wherever there is a void in the digital marketing space, a business will come in and fill that void. They will find a way somehow. And even if you look at the big guns like Facebook, it seems like they control everything, but it's clear. I think every digital marketer will agree that Facebook organic reach is going down. The engagements are going down because it's very much a pay-to-play environment these days. Eventually, businesses are going to start phasing out of there. Unless your business unless that's your target audience, the crew that is on Facebook, they're there to see friends' social lives, family social lives, life events. I've always said that Facebook is used, number one, to see who's been born, who's died, who's gotten married, and who's had some other of these great life events. And for many millennials like myself, Gen Xers, boomers, that's kind of the number one reason that people are there. Now there's the political side, of course, but from a B2B standpoint, the use case of Facebook is dwindling. I have my B2C clients. I tell them the strategy is, definitely stay on Facebook a couple times a week. Absolutely. B2B clients, maybe once a week. At this point, Facebook is, it's not only pay to play, but they're trying to boost up groups. They want more discussion. They want more interpersonal chatting amongst friends. And so as group increases, as the ads increase, the page is decreasing. I personally think the page will be essentially like a Google My Business profile in the next couple of years, where it's there, you need to have it, people are going to look for it, but there's no real point in following it anymore. It's more of an information search. You're looking at the customer path to purchase. That information search is the very first step, and that's what you do. You look at, are they on Facebook? Do they exist? Do they have followers? Are they on Google? What are the hours? What are the reviews like? That's becoming more and more the case for businesses on Facebook and not sharing all of this new information. Again, this is more from a B2B standpoint. If you're selling t-shirts, selling flower pots, seasonal thing, sure, Facebook, all about it. Definitely need it. But from a B2B standpoint, if you're selling semiconductors to small businesses or to OEMs, what are you going to tell the masses on Facebook? What value do you provide to customers there? And so it's an interesting use case because social media, people are there for a reason. They don't want to be sold stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, your business either needs to go out on a limb and extend your brand to a point where it's relevant, culturally relevant, or you can keep it in that central sector, that very, very small niche that's relevant to your business, um, such as those who are looking for reviews, looking for recommendations. Because Facebook now, from a business point of view, is more of an online reputation tool and less of an inbound marketing tool.
Sounds good. So what more, I guess, on the tips side of things now, for anyone that's looking to either pursue a career in marketing or dive in and start their own business, what lessons or tips can you provide for people that are either currently entrepreneurs as well or aspiring to be one?
Well, so I would say number one, obviously, if you have the opportunity to take courses in digital marketing, do it. It could be anything. It could be content marketing, blogging, advertising, any of that. Do it. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity, or they're past that. They're in their early, mid, late 20s, early 30s. At that point, you need to become more self-taught. There's plenty of academies and courses and schools, certificate programs. Those are all great. People talk about a HubSpot or getting Google Analytics certified. Those are all fine. They're great resume builders. Nothing will replace experience. And how do you get experience? That's always the question. So say you are in a separate career. Say you work in finance and you want to make a change and you want to do digital marketing. You have a passion for it. The first thing you need to do, obviously, is develop some of those basic skills. You can go do some training if you want, in whatever that specialty area it is you want to do. Say you just want to work in digital marketing, you want to do digital marketing strategy. That's what everybody wants to do at the start. It's important to do some research, just go online, look at the big blogs in digital marketing, use Google to the extent that you can. If you can take either watch some YouTube videos, a lot of it needs to be DIY. That's how it was for most of us that are in our positions now, that are in our 30s, that have been doing digital marketing for all this time. It's all been self-taught. It's all been as it happened. As this new generation of digital marketers is coming up, and they are more taught in a classroom setting by people like me and others, and other DIYers. It's important to get some experience, because for us, being self-taught meant doing it, experiencing all these things. But if you've never used Google Analytics before, you should probably look at the Google demo accounts. Look at all of the things that are available there. If you've never done email marketing before, sign up for some emails on some blogs. Look at the content that's getting sent to you. You have an idea for what you're looking at, so that you know what it is that you'd be creating. But then finally, go find yourself a client. My thought is, if you don't have any work to back up your you as a freelancer, then offer your skills upfront for free. If you've never had a client before, as much as I don't condone that, if you've never done this before and someone's going to take a chance on you, set an agreement with them and say, hey, if you know a small business owner, or if there's a restaurant or someplace that you go to regularly, look at their website, look at their social media, look at their emails if they have any. If there's anything that you think that you can do better, where you could improve, approach them and say, hey, I'm looking to build up my digital marketing resume and experience. I think I could add some value to whatever. And, if you'd be open to it, I'd love to offer you my services for free for X number of days or weeks or items. If you like what you see, we can work out some sort of price after that. But, I'm just looking to kind of dip my toe into the digital marketing world. not a lot of businesses that need that help are going to say no, especially if you know them. So at that point, you can get a little bit of experience going. Um, if they can pay you, great. If not, you've started your body of work. Keep doing this. This isn't the way to mass grow your business, of course, but it's a way to get a couple of things on your resume, because the first thing that people like hiring managers like me are going to ask are, all right, what have you done in the past? Oh, I took this course and this course and I have a certification. Okay, great. Now, what have you actually done for a business? That is really where I start. You've never done anything like that before, depending on the role, of course. If I'm looking to pay, and I'm not right now, but if I was looking to hire a salaried employee, like, I need somebody that is experienced and I'm not going to need to provide substantial training for. I'm just looking for any semblance of experience, but also an analytical mindset. Somebody who puts on their resume, I've grown so and so's Facebook following by X percentage, and then they list some other KPIs, those key performance indicators that are important. I've helped increase the average order value. I've doubled the click-through rate. Showing those analytics are more important than saying managed so and so's Facebook page for 3 months, posted 10 posts or whatever, posted 4 times a week for 4 months. That shows your business experience, but that doesn't really show anything more. I'm looking for the successes, and that you, the candidate, are thinking from a numbers point of view. Because if you're performance driven, that's going to lead to greater success. If you are just doing without any sort of analytical inclination, where you don't even look to see if you're doing well, you're just like, fine. Those are the people that I tend to avoid. You don't have to be a go-getter, but you need to be somebody who can at least go get the analytics, can show your performance, can show your successes, and that'll go really far for you throughout your career.
Sure. And then to end on a light note, I just had a couple of questions. First one is, are there any business entrepreneurs that you follow that kind of inspire you when running your own business, or when teaching marketing? And then the second one is, what is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
Well, as far as the entrepreneur side, I wouldn't say there is a lot. The big one in marketing / entrepreneurship is Neil Patel. I do recommend him. They have a nice little 5-minute podcast that they do every week or so. Him and one of his business partners. That's really nice, good little snippets. And then another one I follow, and he was more relevant. I don't really know if he's as big these days, but his name is Jeff Bullas, Bullas. He was really big about 5 6 years ago in the social media landscape, and now he's still got some really good content that I follow, and he's a good follow on Twitter. In terms of you said my favorite kind of aspect of entrepreneurship. I mean, for me, that is that every day is different. If I was doing Digital Detroit full time, every morning I would wake up and, it would be somewhat of an adrenaline rush, knowing that, there is literally an infinite amount of success that can be had today. I could go out and land $1 million client. There's like a 1% chance of that happening, but it exists. When you are working when you're climbing the corporate ladder, it's hard. You don't really have, you have security, but you don't have the potential for a home run. Even the worst Major League Baseball player is going to hit a home run a couple of times. The goal, of course, is for you to be able to hit a home run every time that you're up to the plate. And for me, again, I'm not there looking for $1 million client every day, but the fact that it exists, and I never know when I'm going to get somebody to fill out the contact form on my website, and they hey, I got $500,000 I'm looking to spend here. or would like you to do it. You never know when that's going to come in, and I've never gotten that before, but it exists. That the adrenaline rush is there, and if you have faith in yourself as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as somebody who can sell your business to people that reach out, it makes those moments that much more exciting. And um, I've had a couple of friends who have started their own businesses, and they just walked away from the corporate world. And I've never done that, and I don't know when I will, but as both of them have said to me, they say, it's an adrenaline rush waking up every day not knowing where your money's coming from, which is a little scary. But if you're at that point in your life, I can see that. I'm not at that point, but the drive that you have to do all of that is, you know, like if you're in a regular corporate job working 9 to 5, and you lack the motivation, try quitting and going on your own. You will not lack motivation then. You see that your resources are limited, your funds are limited, and that you need to go do it yourself. You'll be amazed at how driven you can get when you see that the potential is out there, the potential to grow a business. Think about where you want to be in 5 years with your business. You want to have that shining marquee in downtown Detroit at Woodward and Jefferson, looked out onto the world with you sitting in your big comfy office where you're the man or the woman, or you're in charge of the world. Or do you want to be doing what you're still doing today? That's the question. And for me, I know where I would like to be in 5 years, and I work towards that each day. And it's been the last couple of years have been much more interesting in terms of the work and trying to very slowly, incrementally grow the business, and trying to think of cost-effective and really time-effective ways to grow the business so that I can eventually live out my business goals.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Nick, for your time. I greatly appreciate it. As a fellow entrepreneur myself, I know time is always of the essence. So I greatly appreciate you accommodating time for our interview, and hope we can keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Taj.